I'm going to introduce you. Okay. Hi, everyone. I think I know everyone in the room. But if you don't know me, my name is Rochelle Niagara. I'm the neighborhood commissioner for this area. So thank you all for coming. But I especially want to thank Dr. Saunders. She is a pastor here at the 3rd Street Church of God. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for letting us use your space. We appreciate it. And for she's very active in the community. And then, you know, they just added the new building not too long ago.
Yes.
All right, but the stars here of the evening, we have the development team and Dr. Bakai, the owner for the property. So here's how tonight's going to work. We're going to listen to their presentation, and then we're going to take questions after, okay? This meeting's being recorded because I've learned that when I have these larger meetings, no one remembers what is said. So, all right, the floor is, you want to make introductions for yourself?
Yes, my name is Dr. Boka. I think I've met a good number of you people when I normally come down around the property. And I first of all have to say that we have a very good developing team, and I'm really ready to move and get this place really built so that we have a good improvement in our neighborhood. With that, I will tell you all that the team I have is very well, good team, and they work. I've seen their work before I could make a decision to bring them to the camp. And I just want to introduce very briefly my friend and the developer, Mr. Michael Hunt. We will be saying a few words to you all. And the architect is not because I think he has some health, but this is the lady that all the time I've been working with the lead architect to do the work. And we have a very good, impressive plan that we're going to put, that you all going to be very proud of. And I have this Meredith. That she's going to be here to help us out, and she's going to do a lot of the talking, and she will tell you all what we're going to be doing. And I thank you all very much for coming. And if we have questions after they introduce themselves and bring everything together, then we can ask questions.
So I just want to interject. I have known Dr. Bakai for 4 years now,
Right, yes.
because it has been that long, or more than 4 years.
Yes.
And we have talked every couple of months on the phone. I've been like, Dr. Bakai, what's going on? And then finally, here's something. It's been 4.5 years.
Yes.
So of a phone relationship with Dr. Bakai.
Thank you so much for everything you have done so far.
No problem.
Yes.
So hi, my name is Michael Hunter. I'm with the development team. I'm working with Dr. Bakai on several of his projects. And first and foremost, we'd like to thank you for your time and attention in terms of trying to bring your input into our projects. It's very important for us as placemakers to understand the community and to do things that the community feels like are a contribution. And so to that extent, I'd like to also just reintroduce again our esteemed team of architects and lawyers who have done a good amount of work, a fair amount of work inside of DC. We have Christine, who is with the architecture firm of Square 134. They're an offshoot of a very large firm that has done some very substantial projects, and what they do is they focus on smaller boutique projects such as this. And let me just say that we've spent a considerable amount of time looking at the site, trying to understand the properties to be able to come to the table and share what we'd like to do in terms of bringing Dr. Bakai's vision to fruition in a way that makes sense within the community. And then also with regard to Meredith, she's very well versed with regard to policy. And so to the extent that everything that we do, we want to make sure that it is to code and that we are understanding all of the environmental conditions as they are and as they will become, and to the extent that we want to be around each and every one of us after this meeting to be able to answer your questions. We plan to make ourselves available. And then just in closing from my part, just again, I'd just like to reiterate, we have snacks and sandwiches in the back, so if you get hungry at any time, please help yourself, because we certainly don't want to take it home. Thank you.
just quickly introduce myself. As I said, Meredith Moldenhauer. I'm a zoning land use counsel for the applicant with Griffin, Murphy, Moldenhauer, and Wiggins. One of the reasons why we're having this meeting is to try to reach out to the community at the beginning stages. There's been an HPRB application filed, but the plans are still having an opportunity to be improved, and Christina, the architectural firm, can kind of talk about that as well. But we're obviously going to be seeking different areas of zoning relief as well for the project, but we haven't filed the application yet. This is a preliminary meeting to get community input at a very early stage, which I think is a great opportunity to meet with the community, understand the concerns, and hopefully try to address those as we move forward with the project. So that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Christina now to walk through some of the conceptual design, some of the aspects of the board, and the overall project. And then we'll wrap up by kind of identifying where we see the project moving forward from here, and then take questions.
Great, thank you. Hello everyone, my name is Christine Proudfoot. I'm with Squirrel 34 Architects, and I'm working with Aqua and the rest of the development team on 1212 through 1214 4th Street Northwest. So as you can see here, I've got a few boards to go through and a model, and my objective is to keep things brief, light, kind of introduce the projects, and then do, just as Meredith said, take questions at the end. So I would imagine that if you guys are here, you're very familiar with the area. Most of you are neighbors, friends, that kind of thing. But just to reiterate where we are in space, we've got some existing context photos of the building that's on 4th Street, which is one of the 408 contributing structures in the historic district of Mount Vernon. And then we also have a corner condition where we're looking towards Ridge Street as well. So this is one of the existing garages on site that is not a contributing structure. So just to... And then some more elevations talking about the very interesting nature of 4th Street, which is that, I don't know if many of you knew this, but in our research we found out that as a historic place, it's very significant in the architectonic language, and that it steps up, it steps down, and that's because 4th Street used to be one of the existing streetcar lines. It was a major thoroughfare, and in that there was a lot of different architecture happening, but it's very different than Ridge Street over here, where the architectural language is very small. We have buildings that are 2 stories, normally wood construction, smaller row house conditions. So our site is a very interesting place because we are right directly on the corner of both of these conditions. And so here you can see 4th Street, the varying heights and atmospheres, and then we also have Ridge Street, where we have a very clear architectonic language, 2-story row homes that are about 5 foot off the street. So for those of you who might not be able to see the model, here's a clear site plan of our proposed development and where we are in relationship to Ridge and 4th Street. This is facing north. So there is an existing building on site and then 2 proposed garages. It's in our best interest to keep the existing building on site because it is a contributing structure in a historic district. So we want to especially be, we want to be very sensitive to that fact. We want to be sensitive to especially the front facade of 4th Street, and that's something that we have to take into consideration as we develop our model. And then we also are looking at filling the site and providing a few things and a few amenities to the people who will be in the building. So first thing, we're gonna, in terms of our entry and parking on the site, we're gonna provide a new curb cut per DDOT off of Ridge Street, and then we hope to provide the allowable amount of parking, which is 1 per 3 units. And our total units at the time right now are 26. And so 1 per 3 units, we're gonna provide 9 parking spaces on site as planned right now. And then also, hopefully, in talking to one of the neighbors on M Street, we're going to provide an easement onto their property, so those people in the apartment building will also be able to park. So I know that that's a big concern for a lot of people out here parking on site. We're providing adequate parking, but we're also providing parking for the neighbors on M Street. So I think that's a great asset. So our primary pedestrian entry will remain on 4th Street over here, and then we just have a very clear corner condition building, and we're filling the lot in sort of an L-shaped configuration here. So again, the design is schematic, and none of these photos represent what we're going to do on site, but these are projects that we have done and projects that we're looking towards as we move forward. So the primary photo up here in the upper left is a project that we've done in Calorama. It's called 2012 to 2014 Calorama Road Northwest. And this is an interesting proposal because we have a contributing historic structure here, and then we also have a new modern addition on the back of the building. So you can see how those two front halves talk to each other, and there's a language that is new, but yet it's also something that I think works well with the existing structure. And these are similar examples of the same, and looking at how do we do something that's modern and juxtapose that to something that's existing, because we have that same condition on 4th Street. This is another building in a Bade language that we're talking about developing on Bridge Street. So now I'll walk you guys quickly through the schematic floor plans. Like I said before, we're going to have 26, right now we plan to have 26 units. And the way that that will shake out is approximately, right now, one studio, 14 one-bedrooms, 7 two-bedrooms. And the most exciting portion about this is that we're going to have 4 3-bedroom units. And those units are upwards of 1,000 square feet right now. So we wouldn't just be building micro units that are 350 square feet. They're going to be sizable and allowable for the families in the area.
How many stories?
How many stories? 3 plus a mezzanine. The other exciting thing that I think is something that everybody would be interested in, especially in the urban fabric, is that we are going to hopefully provide some kind of retail cafe space alongside 4th Street in this portion of the building where you have the awning on 4th Street. So if we look over here on the model, this is our existing building, this is the addition. This portion right here, where there's a canopy and there's an existing kind of storefront area, we're proposing working with smaller markets or cafes to provide and activate the street and see if there's some way that we can get retail cafes, work with a relationship. We're not quite sure who that partner is just yet, but we think that that's an exciting idea, especially when you think about having the capacity of a sandwich shop or a coffee shop in your neighborhood. That would be wonderful, in my opinion. So then the unit mix is laid out pretty clearly. Your 2 bedrooms are in blue, the 1 bedrooms are in yellow, our 3 bedrooms are in green, and those are the primary spaces on the corner that are going to have a lot of glass and a lot of space. And then these are pretty standard as you go up. This is our ground floor plan, again showing that we're providing 9 parking spaces in the back, as well as an easement into the neighbor on 4th Street over here. And then as we move up, we have a pretty efficient layout, 2 stairs and an elevator, and then we're coming off of that corridor, providing more units as you move up. And now this gets interesting at the 3rd level because we're outside of the space of the existing structure, and instead of pulling the existing massing directly up to 4th Street, which probably wouldn't be an appropriate historic decision because you'd be able to see that mass, we're pulling the mass off of the building face so far that if you're standing across the street, you wouldn't be able to see the existing building mass. So that's some way to appease historic, but also come up with an architecture where you don't see this brand new thing sitting on top of an existing structure. And what you're seeing in the drawing and in the model is the addition of these Bade structures along Ridge Street that come down in scale to mediate some of the smaller structures that are happening down Ridge Street. And lastly, we have the model over to your right, but these are just some potential ideas of how the architectural language could manifest itself at the street level, at the corner over here, and then as you move back, this is a wide shot of what we have in the building right now. And again, this is very schematic. Everything is still in flux, and that's, I think, one of the reasons why we're brought everybody here to engage the community and not necessarily talk about the ways in which we're showing the architecture and the architectonic language, but showing the massing, talking about the parking, the number of units, and potentially the amenity space for the neighborhood. So with that, I'll turn it over to Meredith.
So, as Christina indicated, the property obviously is very unique. It's a very large site in this area, the largest lot in the area, and also the prior use of the property. One of the issues is that the property obviously was an apartment building from its origin, so it's always had a multi-family use to the property. It also had commercial use. This building has C of Os that date back for taxi cab office use, other types of office commercial use. And so one of the goals here is to try to create a balance between a mixed-use project and also something that would serve the neighborhood. And so one of the things that Christina talked about was trying to continue to use this existing non-conforming commercial use, but provide it as an amenity, as a neighborhood servicing retail. And so that's a zoning term in regards to what would be allowed. There would have to be a retail use that served the local community, that did not bring people from outside the community here, but rather was a place that had limited hours, limited seating, so that it would be an opportunity for the local community to have something that would service the community. That's an opportunity that the development team is actually open to hearing about, whether it's something that the community is excited about or whether it's something that the community is not excited about. It's obviously something that we're trying to get input on this evening, or if there are specific uses that would be desired, those are also beneficial input aspects that we'd be interested in hearing. As indicated, the property had been used for oil and petroleum storage, so those issues are going to have to be addressed during the process. And in that regard, we are going to be seeking relief for the number of units that's indicated in order to develop the site. Obviously, right now, the property is in disrepair and is in need, obviously, of being revitalized. And so the number of parking spaces would be sufficient for the project. And one of the things that Christina talked about was obviously this is a historic structure, and one of the initial concepts was to bring the building more forward towards the face of the building, but in conversations that architectural team has had with historic preservation, they've indicated that they really need to see that pushed further back so that it's not visible from the streets. That's also a factor that's affecting the overall design and feasibility. So with that, I'll open up the door for any questions from the community.
Could you elaborate, so there's a complete understanding for the residents here about what Dr. Bacai had in the past versus what that zoning was, and now what you're requesting. So what relief you're requesting?
Okay,
So-
we will be, obviously, the project has not been finalized, we've not filed any relief, so the relief is not 100%, we don't know exactly.
A height?
We're not, right now, the project is 40 feet in height, and so we would only be requesting relief from the lot area for the 900 square feet, and then the lot occupancy due to the fact that we are having to push the structure. Show you this. Because the existing historic building has to be retained and you cannot build on top of it like this.
Why not?
Because historic preservation indicated that because it's a contributing building, you can't. So you need to recess it back, and by recessing it back, you're actually pulling the structure further into the rear lot, increasing the lot occupancy. And so that's another area of relief that we're requesting.
But you're kind of shelving it so that you can park underneath it?
Yes, and so there's additional parking then provided, so that there's more parking for the project than parking off-site.
What's the necessity? I mean, I looked it up, and basically, as a matter of right, you allowed only, I think, 12 or 13 units. So what's the necessity for 26?
The necessity for the additional units is the unique size of the lot and the condition of the lot.
What does that have to do with the amount of units?
Yeah.
It has to do with the
Yeah.
challenge for being able to develop the site in a viable.
Viable for money making, not viable for the neighborhood, not viable for.
We are here before we've even filed the application. A lot of times developers file the application and come to the community months later. We're trying to reach out to the community to understand the concerns and
It's a
understand the desires.
monstrosity.
Okay, so we're gonna listen to them and then we're gonna gather opinions, but, all right,
Well,
so.
if I might just finish. I mean, in general, I'm very supportive of any kind of development on the lot, because obviously what's there now is,
Yes,
you know,
yes.
I mean, I think anything is better than what's there now, that's for sure. Having said that, my concern is just the,
Scale.
I mean, the scale, I think it's up to historic, and I guess it's hard to, my thing is just, you know, I know, ultimately, I think what you're trying to do is basically maximize the return per square foot finished. Because I think the sweet spot, as we all know, is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath unit. And I think 13 is plenty, for you to build, and I think you should stick to a matter of right. Trying to chop it up and to have 26 units, I think, is basically kind of too much density. I think it's overbuilding. And while I agree that for 26 divided by 3, you do have the required number of parking spaces, I think we all know that what's prescribed by zoning is not really sufficient. So generally, I would say, in practice, empirically speaking, there's generally 1 car per apartment, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more. So when I see that, when I hear 26 units, I'm thinking 26 cars or more. So 9 units, while it's divisible by 3 and whatever, it's still, I'm thinking 30 cars. So 9
And then
is
people
not gonna
that-
accommodate
two
30
people-
cars.
I can't hear, I'm sorry, this gentleman talking.
So, I mean, so in general, and I live on 4th Street, what was my address, 1235, so I am within 200 feet of you guys, so I think as far as the party status, for sure. I don't see the necessity for going over what's matter of right as far as the number of units, that's my position. But in general, I think it's wonderful to have it developed, because it's been kind of a blighted spot for that area.
I guess my question would be for you and for the other individuals in the audience, is your concern a question of the physical density or the number of individuals based on the concern for parking? Is it
No.
directly parking? I'm just trying to understand the community's concern. Is it directly a parking issue?
Mine is kind of a combination of parking and the overall volume of people coming through. Because I looked it up, so basically, if you were to do the 60%, you can probably do 28,000 square feet. So if you do matter of right 13 units, you're gonna be at 2,000 square feet per unit. That's a very nice 2-bedroom, probably 3-bedroom plus den apartment. And we all know that 3 bedrooms are actually needed for the area, because that's actually, in the city, there's not enough 3-bedroom apartments, because everybody's trying to maximize the retail price per square foot, and that is 1,000 square foot, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, kind of a yuppified condo. So that's what you're doing too. I mean, and I understand, and if I was you, I'd probably be pushing the same thing. But as a community member, I'm like, it'll be hard, I think, to prove the need for 26 units.
Not with all the
Okay.
building they've done
We're gonna
on
let-
M Street.
Gigi, we're gonna let other people speak, okay? Go ahead.
So I had a couple of comments. First of all, I live literally directly across the street from this, and so I am so thrilled to look forward to the day where I'm not just looking into a gutted out building. I'm glad that this is moving forward. Specifically on the parking point, I would really love if you looked into reserving some number of these spots for Zipcar. I think that would be something that, especially because it looks like your parking is going to be accessible from the street, that's going to reduce the number of cars that the residents in this project need. And for someone like me, if there was a Zipcar, right across the street, then I might be able to get rid of my car. And that's, I think if you could find a way to get 2 or 3 of those spots as a dedicated Zipcar, I think that would alleviate, for me, it would alleviate a lot of the concerns on parking. On the design, my concern is, I know you said it's 3 stories, but it's really 4, especially on the 4th Street side, and I think it looks from that rendering significantly taller than anything else on 4th Street. And it doesn't look, Ridge has a little bit more modernist architecture, and 4th really doesn't. And I'm just concerned about something going up that sort of, even if it's well designed, that just sort of sticks out like a sore thumb. Not that everything needs to look like it was built in 1910, but I would hope that as you sort of think about the design, there's really thought about having it not just sort of stepping down so it matches Ridge Street, but making sure that sort of the overall character of the building looks like everything else that's on the street, which is pretty consistent.
Yeah, I totally hear what you're saying. It's very interesting. It's difficult, but it provides a very unique design problem when you have an existing structure that you're forced to keep and then also build an addition both on top of it that is somewhat subservient to it, but also a marriage of all the good things that's happening in the neighborhood. So that's definitely something we'll look
Actually, one thing you guys said that caught me off guard. You said there's oil and petroleum in the ground there?
There used to be, the prior CVOs, Michael, do you want to address?
It's
Sure.
tanks underground.
At this point, we are having an update made to the assessment, and on the environmental side, as I mentioned earlier, we plan to follow to the T whatever the requirements are for cleaning up the site and making sure that it's within proper zoning.
But as of right now, you don't know what if.
As of right now, we're having an assessment performed so that we know exactly what's there. I wouldn't want to comment without having that report done.
So I live at 416 N Street, so our backyard is right where, so the alley in between N and Ridge. We're right before that 90-degree L that empties into Ridge. So we look directly onto this property from our backyard. Just to give my general comments, I think it's wonderful that this is going to be developed finally. I've lived in the neighborhood for 8 years. So it's great to see all the changes and thoroughly support it. Seems a little big for me. I think depending on how you fit, the architecture, and obviously we've got some very new builds along 4th Street up to N, and we've got more coming in. So we definitely want to see more designs. 26 units seems like a lot. So you're a combination of 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and 3 bedrooms.
Correct.
So if you literally only had 1, 2, and 3 people in each one of those, how many residents would that actually be? Do you know?
I'm not sure, we haven't calculated the occupant loads.
Okay, be curious to know that.
Sure.
If maybe we could find that out. And depends on, I don't know how many units they actually, how many units of 3 or. Yeah, so with that, 9 spaces is not even remotely close. And Ridge is already packed to the gills with parking. Obviously, parking is gonna be a big issue for a lot of folks here, so.
Sure.
And I know 4th Street now has become impossible to park on the weekends. And N Street as well. So, those are just my concerns. So hopefully we can help alleviate some of that. But it seems, 26 units seems a bit extreme, if possible, scale up.
Sure. Thank you. Okay, go.
I had a question about, on the 4th Street side, it looks like you set the building back to line up with the apartment buildings that are already there. But on the Ridge Street side, it looks like in the lower picture, you built it all the way out to the sidewalk. Why didn't you keep the setback with the?
So I think that these are a little bit, there's something, the perspective is a little bit disillusioning because we are actually building at the lot, schematically right now. We are building at the lot line, which is where the existing homes are on Ridge Street adjacent to us, and then we're showing right now some projecting bays over the lot line, which is allowable. And then we're at the lot line with the existing building here, but we have the majority of the mass is set back over here to be kind of, be nice to the appropriate historic structure. Historic, they really like to see you push back from the mass to show that this is kind of, we're giving precedence to this existing historic building. And so we're gonna take a little step back and push back from this.
And what did you file with HPRB? Was it concept?
Yeah, we filed concept.
Do you have a date yet for a hearing?
Our hearing date, I believe, is at the end of May, 5/25.
Because I spoke with Brendan Meyer, he told me that he asked you for more detail, and you said you will go to BZA first. So is there still an HPRB hearing?
There's still gonna be an HPRB hearing, yeah.
Oh, okay, I thought
we
you were doing the
have to.
BZA route, okay.
No, we're actually,
Both.
meeting, yeah.
Both are required.
Yep.
Well, I understand, but anyway.
So
I think out of all of us, I've been here since 1987. I bought my place in 87, so I've lived here longer than almost everybody in here. And I too am happy that they're going to make something there, but having lived there longer than anybody, you guys don't know what changes I've seen and how different the neighborhood is since I moved here. And I knew it was gonna happen. Everyone thought it was crazy when I bought my house, and I said, you watch. Downtown has nowhere else to go. But it's just a matter of, okay, Yale Laundry, the two places opposite on New York Avenue. I mean, there's been such a glut of structures. I just don't, see the need for housing. I don't see the need for such quantity in such a small space. Especially in such a quiet little cul-de-sac neighborhood. That's the nice thing about it. You're not, you're bringing New York Avenue to Ridge Street and 4th Street. And that's the only, I'm the property right next to you. I'm 408 Ridge, so, I'm the one that stands to be impacted by this thing the most, almost. Except for, the people on 4th across the street.
I think Otto's want you to go.
Yeah, so, I echo a lot of the concerns and the praise to you guys for coming here and wanting to develop this. But I think it's for me, and I live, on 4th Street between Ridge and to me, it's the character of the neighborhood, which is very residential, homeowners for the most part, some condo owners within that space. But very residential, small units where you have no more than 2 to 3 per row house that are there, where this does turn this into more of a New York Avenue type structure where, it's not a place, if I wanted to live in that kind of heavy environment, that's where I would have chosen to live, not an area where it's more residential. And with that comes the concerns about the parking, concerns about the construction. We've seen a lot of construction that's, taken up a lot of space along the street, caused a lot of problems. And a big structure like this reminds me of the one at 7th and N, I guess? 9th and N, where, that's a big chunk of space that's being taken up for a long time, and it just sticks out from the community in that kind of area. And, I wasn't here when that went up, and I wouldn't have liked it when it went up. I think I echo the concern where, he dropped the size down to 13 or less, or whatever that number is, to develop it well. Talk about the 3-bedroom units. There is a problem. I mean, I think you'll get a return on investment and get the kind of community that this area is accustomed to and wants to have.
Did you acquire the property next to the site, the small row house on Ridge Street?
That's my
That's
house.
yours?
Yes, and I just spent my life savings having it renovated.
Oh, yeah.